in the garden here. It is a weedy mess as usual. That's just kind of having a garden with toddlers, and my husband is now gone, and he won't be back for a while, so I am kind of on my own with getting this garden all done this summer. So we're just going to kind of do the best we can. We are going to dig up some radishes and we're going to pickle them and really do kind of the first harvest of the summer. Okay, so this is where the radishes are hiding within the broccoli and the cauliflower, and you can see that the cauliflower is, or not, sorry, if I say cauliflower, the cabbage is starting to kind of form into its little like cabbage ball, which is exciting. There are some weeds among these radishes here, and I just honestly really need to get this bed in order. There aren't really any broccoli coming up yet, but these leaves are getting bigger and bigger, which is super exciting. All right, so it's a little bit of an adventure figuring out where these radishes are, but you can see that they're getting pretty big. I planted them a while ago. Probably needed to be harvested like a couple weeks ago, but you can see that they're getting really big and nice. There's some here that are much bigger and some that are much smaller, but I'm so excited to make some pickled radishes with these. All right, let's pick some more, bud.
I think the big.
Let's see, can you help me find them?
Sure.
Oh, you okay? Whoa. All right, let's keep looking. All right, we got some honkers back here. This one is gonna be pretty big. But these have definitely been left to grow probably a little too long, but I think honestly these are still pretty good sized. I know I've seen some really big ones. I'll see if I can find them in here. And hopefully we can make some pretty good harvest here. Look at these guys. And this is pretty big. I mean, look at, like, this is me grabbing it around with my, I might have to actually take some of this out with my hand. Wow. That's quite the radish there. Pretty big guy. We ended up planting a lot of these really close together because my son helped me and he just kind of sprinkled the stuff really close. And so some of these I'm picking out are kind of rotted, and I also waited just too long to harvest them. But I'm still really excited. I mean, look at this guy. Awesome. I always love the first harvest of the season. This is the progress we've made. We've gotten all the radishes out of here, and you can still see there's weeds and radishes within here, and weeds and radishes within here, and I'm hoping to have this all cleared out by the end of the day. Obviously, with toddlers, I have to do a lot of stop and go, but I am determined to make this happen. So a little bit time later, I finally dug up all of the radishes and I started to prep them to do the actual processing. So what I did is I separated the actual radish root from the leaves and I put them into two separate bowls. I filled the bowl with the radish root with water so that they could sit in water in the fridge until I was ready to process them. And then I took off as many leaves from the stem as I could. I'm not sure if I could have kept the stem on for the pesto. Let me know in the comments if you've made radish pesto before and if you've kept them on. I kind of thought it might be too stringy later on. So I just went through kind of the painstaking process of removing all the leaves. However, they stored really nicely in a plastic bag for a few days until I was ready to make the pesto. So definitely that was a really good storage option, both the water and then for the radish root and the plastic bag for the radish leaves. Here I am just cutting up the radishes for the pickled radishes. Now I don't have a mandolin and honestly it worked out just fine. Some of them were a little bit harder to cut because they were so small, mostly because I planted them so closely together. So if you don't do that, you probably won't have as much of a problem with that, but truly it worked out just fine. I'm a big believer of not needing a ton of tools in the kitchen. So here I am just putting the radishes into a mason jar. I had washed them quite a few times at this point, the last time in the strainer, and I'm just filling up the mason jar as much as I can. I'm trying to pack them in there a little bit more tightly. And I boiled some water in the microwave, and I'm filling it about 50% of the way, and then I'm going to fill up the rest of it with vinegar. Because I'm just going to keep this in my fridge, I'm not too concerned about making it like super precise to be shelf stable outside of the fridge. I'll probably get through these before they would even, kind of go through the preservation process. I'm going to mix it up, and putting these lids on them, oh my gosh, if you don't have these mason jar lids, they are so helpful when you're storing stuff in there, especially in the fridge. And this is what they turned out to be. They are already super pink in the fridge the next day, and I can't wait to eat them. Next up is the pesto. Now I put probably about 4 cups of the pesto leaves and an entire wedge of Parmesan cheese, like the stuff from Aldi, a bunch of olive oil, and some salt and pepper, as well as some lemon juice and some garlic cloves. Now, I would also put in some either sunflower seeds or some nuts of some sort, but I totally forgot to add them in, but I added them in later. So you're going to go ahead and blend it. I used my Vitamix blender. You could use a food processor as well. Since the batch was so big, my blender worked great, and I don't actually have a food processor. And this thing is definitely a workhorse when you have large quantities and really need to blend stuff up. So it worked out great. This is what it turned out. It is so beautifully green. It was so tasty, and I can't wait to try it with even more baby radish leaves. Thanks so much for joining me on this first garden harvest. I am so excited from everything that we harvested. I am feeling blessed that we are able to grow things, and I learned a lot too about growing radishes. One, it is important to make sure that they're spread out a little bit, but obviously when a toddler helps you, it's a little bit more difficult to make sure that happens. And then we need to make sure that I actually put a timer or a calendar reminder to when I need to harvest it, because I really should have harvested about 21 days after we planted it, just like it kind of recommends. We put them in the ground a little bit too long. I need to make sure that if I harvest it earlier, the greens are a little bit better for the pesto. When the leaves are a little bit more tender and not as grown out like mine were, the flavor of the leaves is actually even a little bit better and makes a better pesto. So keeping that in mind for next time. If you enjoyed this video, I would love if you gave it a like and you subscribed for more content like this. I put out gardening, homesteading, cooking, mom lifestyle videos every week, and I would love if you would join me. If you enjoyed this video and you haven't caught my garden tour, make sure to check it out up here. And if you want some free meal plans, you can check that out in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.